Good morning everyone and welcome to EAA. Today we're in my 2002 Ford Lightning and we're heading up to a little town by the name of Sonora, California. If you guys haven't heard of Sonora, don't worry about it. It is actually a very nice, quaint little town up in the foothills, and it happens to be the hometown of my good friend Wade Travis. Now Wade has been in a number of videos before, but he's probably most famous for actually selling a vehicle to Jay Leno, and they've honestly become pretty good friends. They talk on a pretty regular basis. Wade has kind of an eclectic taste in automobiles. He's got a number of project vehicles he has going right now, and he's just got an eclectic taste when it comes to memorabilia and paraphernalia and things like that. His garage is full of stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to take a run up there, spend the day, kind of take a tour of his garage, his projects, things like that. And of course, I wanted to take you guys along, so I hope you enjoy. Yo, Wade!
Hey, Mike.
There's the man hard at work. Never. Okay, as you can see, we made it to Wade's garage, and welcome to his domain. There is a little bit of everything in here. Really, it would take probably about 2 days for me to go through and him to tell all the stories about all the stuff that's in here.
There's a lot of history in here.
It really is. Okay, so the first thing I think I'd like to start with is kind of the story of how we met, because it is really kind of a cool story and it relates to cars. So, shall I
Cars.
start? Cars. Always cars. Yeah, Wade actually had a 1967 Thunderbird for sale. And I remember seeing it on Craigslist and thinking that was just the coolest car because I'd never seen that design before. So I call Wade, I go up, we start talking.
Well, to give a little history on the car, I was actually buying the car for a low price, and I was going to take all the drivetrain out of it. I wanted to use all the parts that I could and to build me a hot rod, hopefully a 5-window coupe. But the car sat there in my driveway, and every day when I came home, I'd come around this bank, and there would be the car looking at me going, "Don't crush me." And being a car guy and loving old cars, I just couldn't. I wanted it back on the road. So I decided to not gut it and go ahead and put it up for sale. Well, Mike answered the ad. He came up and we talked for quite a while, and then after a week he came back and actually bought the car. The cool thing about that car was it had had years of abuse of backyard mechanics making wrong mistakes with it, and then I did my part to help bring it back to life. Then Mike added his 2 cents and brought it even more, and then he sold it to a third guy who now is driving it every day, from what I understand.
Yeah, he still has it. I still see pictures on Instagram once in a while, and we'll have to visit that car sometime because that'll be the completion of the story. But yeah, we get to talking and we realize, okay, we got the cars in common, and then we start talking about God and we realize we've got that in common. And since then, it's been like 7 or 8 years, I think, and it's just kind of like a brotherhood, really.
It seems more like a lifetime.
20 or 30. I'll take credit for that one. So yeah, that's kind of a cool story. The next thing I want to talk about is his dad. His dad, Jim Travis, and he's really a big name down in Southern California, really big in the hot rod scene. And Wade could sit here and tell you stories for hours on him, but he has so much to do with what's in here. So just a little bit of a background about your dad.
Well, he started in Bradford, Pennsylvania, and his parents moved him to L.A. And when he was in junior high, he started hanging out with the shop guys in high school and found he had a love for cars. And it was him and all his friends, some are older, that actually created this whole industry. Before then, if you had an idea, you'd have to go mill it out or design it or make it yourself, and then you'd take it to El Mirage or Bonneville and test it. And if it worked out, a lot of those guys start selling their product, and that's where you get people like Ice Good Darien doing ice ski cams, so on and so forth. Well, one of the guys went on to do Hot Rod Magazine. They did what is now NHRA. My father was a part of all of that. He's been a member of these different clubs, and one of them that I remember as a kid was he was part of the LA Roaster Club. Now, he wasn't one of the original founders. He started the club after their 4th or 5th year, but at that time they had had 2 car shows that didn't work, and they decided they were never going to have a car show again. Well, then my father came up with the LA Roadster Swap Meet car show on Father's Day. And he goes, and I want to have it on Father's Day so the women can't tell us no. So that's how that got started. In fact, I had a woman just at the last car show. She goes, I wondered why they did it on Father's Day. I said, yeah, that's why.
Works every time.
Later, my father went on to, he was doing a lot of Bonneville stuff. Mm-hmm. We set a world record in 1969 in a 29 Roadster.
That's why I wanted to touch bases on, yes.
I got to be a crew member of that and part of that.
Very cool experience.
So then there was that kind of stuff. He was also racing at Lions drag strips, so I was a part of that history. So this got it into my blood. So I was always a car guy after that. But yeah, eventually you'll see that we'll talk about I got to work for NHRA, and I tried to carry it with dignity because it was such a great organization. So I get to be part of that. My father went on to he rebuilt the Mickey Thompson 4-engine Challenger. Okay. And that's when his name went sky high, because after he rebuilt that, and they told him that it would take him about 2 years, he had it done in 6 months.
Wow.
So once they were done with the Challenger, then he went on to do the Attempt and the Assault, also Mickey Thompson's cars. Danny Thompson, his son, did phenomenal things, and they really had a great rapport between them. He realized that my father is an honest man, so Danny just went ahead and kept using my father to restore these, and now they're up in a museum up in Oregon.
How cool is that? So essentially, what it comes down to is all this is your dad's fault, right? We can blame it on him. Yeah. See, I don't even know who to blame it on. I really don't. Cause my parents weren't really into cars. My dad kind of. I don't have this kind of history. It's just a sickness that I caught someday when I was out. So yeah, that's really cool. And we're going to talk a little bit more about your dad and things like that as we kind of take a tour around the shop. So the last thing, and everybody wants to know about this, Jay Leno. This guy sold a car to Jay Leno and has actually become good friends with Jay Leno. So how did that happen, Wade? How did you make that happen? And I'm going to interject on this one every now and then.
Yeah, I picked up a car that was absolutely original. It had survived many, many years. The original woman who bought it, what was rare was she bought the 2-door hardtop, and this was usually a rich man's family car. But she, I don't know if she didn't have a family or not, but she bought a 2-door hardtop. She got the 392 Hemi in it, which was the biggest motor option. And then she picked a color that was an original color, but most people didn't pick it. And it was like,
pink.
It was pink. It was pink. It was called Shell Pink was the technical name of it. Well, when I acquired this car, it had been sold by the original, or traded in by the original woman to the dealership, who kept it in his warehouse for decades, who then sold it to a friend of mine who had it in his warehouse for 13 years. Nobody put any miles on it after the original owner. So this car just was so original. I had to rebuild the brakes, rebuild the transmission, rebuild the radiator, and then I was fine-tuning stuff that had stopped working, like your brake lights and stuff like that. And it was just too nice of a car. But I took a lot of flack because it was pink. And I had people that, like we had a barbecue out here and all the, good company, good music, great food. and someone goes brought out the animal cookies, the glazed ones, and someone goes, "Hey, only eat the white ones. Save all the pink ones for Wade." It was like, here we go again.
Yep.
His mom said, "Hey, ask him if he wants to sell Mary Kay. I can set him up." It's like, everybody's a comedian. So I kept telling him, "Hey, one of these days I'm going to sell it to Jay Leno." And he's going, "Yeah, okay, Wade."
And we're all of his friends are like, yeah, like that's going to happen. Sure, keep dreaming. Wait.
Yeah, they just kept patronizing me, and I was like, "No, I'm going to sell it to Jay." So one day I called up Jay Leno's establishment, and I got past Helga. She's apparently a wonderful person who you don't get to see Jay until you go past Helga. Well, then Jay and I started doing personal email stuff, and he was interested in the car. But then we took it to the concourse up here at Ironstone, and it won a ribbon. So then I sent email pictures back to Jay saying, "Well, now we're award winning," and he called me right back up. So a friendship ensued, and Jay is now allowed me to go backstage with him when he's doing live performances, and I'm not leaving my fiance out. She's been a part of this as well.
Which she is behind the camera right now, and you will see her soon.
So yeah, Amberly and I actually got to go backstage and hang out with Jay before he went out live to do his comedy act. But also we took everybody, because I kept telling them, when I sell it to Jay, I'm also going to negotiate 6 tickets. So Fred, who's like a brother to me, and Mike, who's like a brother, and their wives, and my fiance and I were supposed to go down there and go through all of his shop. One of them couldn't make it. 5 of us did, but we went through and we enjoyed his shop, and Jay gave us his personal tour, walked us all through the shop.
Definitely a very nice guy, and I do have a video on that if you guys want to look back at my videos. That was a really fun time. So Jay actually came here. We got to pick him up from the airport, me, Fred, and Melanie, and bring him here. So he was actually here, and you can talk a little. We got pictures and stuff like that to prove it.
Yeah, I told Jay, because he was wondering if I was going to take the car down there, just because my dad lives in the same area, and he thought maybe I'd down there, visit Dad, show him the car, sign the pink slip over, that kind of stuff. And I said, "Jay, I'd kind of like you to come up here." So Jay...
That's right, man. You want the car, you come here.
Jay was so cool. He goes, "Okay." And he made it to where he came up here. So then I got the phone call from Jay saying that he was going to be flying into Modesto, and he asked me how far of a drive it is from there up to here. And I said, about an hour and a half drive. He goes, "Okay, well, I'll get a rental." And I said, no, I've got a couple of guys that I'll send to pick you up. And he goes, no, I don't want to be a burden. I said, "You're not going to be a burden. They live in that area." Yeah, they showed up, picked him up. They got to drive with him for an hour and a half up here. And then what was really cool, because this was a business deal, they showed up, parked down a little bit farther away from the house. They got out, and then everybody backed off and left Jay and I alone. And my fiance was real cool to take pictures in the background so we could record this, so that Jay and I could just
negotiate
what
you would do in a business transaction.
Once it was all done, I said, "Jay, one thing, can I get you to sign my wall?" And so he signed my garage wall, and it says Jay Leno was here. So that's pretty cool.
So he can never sell a house now. If he does, he has to take the garage with him.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're done with that. Let's take a little tour around the garage and check out some of the cool stuff Wade has. Here we have Amberly, and let's pan down here. She is injured. She actually broke her leg, so it's very nice for her to be here.
Thank you.
And say hi.
Hi.
Hi, yes. So this is Wade's better half. I don't know if I've ever gotten you in a video or not,
I don't think so.
But now she is shown to the world.
And that's her 55 Buick in the back.
And that's true. That is her.
Baby.
Let's pan back here and get a shot of that. That has been around for a long time. I was actually there when I met Wade.
Back in 1977, I had graduated high school, and my older brother had moved to LA the year prior. So I ended up moving down to LA too, and 2 young boys with their newfound freedom and a cool car running around all through Hollywood and having a good time. And then Dad set us up with NHRA to work for them. So I wore that outfit, or that official shirt, with dignity, because it's such a fine establishment. But one of the favorite stories of what took place was my father had arranged it with 4 of us. He took the headphones and my older brother, and they ran the stock, pro stock, and comp lanes. And then he gave the second headset to another gentleman who he was a big man, and had me help him out with the pro comp, the funny car, and the top fuel dragsters. Well, after about an hour and a half of working, that guy took the headphones off and just handed them to me. Here I was, an 18-year-old man, and he hands these headphones to me, and he said, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I put the headphones on, and I was the one communicating with the towers.
How old was this guy, would you estimate?
I would say late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
But yeah, he just handed it over to me, and so I...
Here, kid, take over.
I had to do what I had to do. Well, one of my favorite stories was suddenly, you know, I'm lining up. You always had the dragsters were all along this wall that went all the way over to the pits. Now, we were running in the Ontario Motor Speedway. Now, this poster is an inaugural poster of 1972 when they first opened up. And so they gave us this and that badge that we were supposed to put on our coats, which we never did.
Okay.
Anyway, years later, in 1977, I was an official, and we were racing invitationals only down the pits.
Mm-hmm.
So the wall went all the way around to the front again, and the dragsters were lining up in one lane. Well, this one guy suddenly, I had just seen him too, and he suddenly shows up, and he gets out and he pleads with me. He goes, "Hey, you got to help me. I just ran, and the guy at the other end is making us come up. He goes, if I run again, I'll blow the motor. It's too hot."
Right.
I said, "Well, then you go back." He goes, "But that other guy," I said, "Don't worry about him. You go back there, and I'll take care of it through the tower." He goes, "Thank you." And he got his crew in his car, and they pushed it back to the back of the line.
Cool.
I then called the tower, and I said, "Tell him not to send any more. I'll take care of it on this end." So I then went to every other dragster, and I would tell them, "Here's what's going on. I need you to move up so we can shorten this line and get it back to 2 lanes." And most people complied. But there was one guy who's sitting in the cockpit of his dragster. He's sitting there, he's commanding out, and they're doing different things, and he's checking them in his cockpit. And I explained everything to him. He suddenly grabbed his roll cage, and he came out in one fell swoop, landed in front of me, toe to toe, face to face, and he goes, "And if I don't?" I stepped back, and I looked at it, I said, "We'll take the number off your car and your name, I'll turn it into the tower, and you're disqualified from the race." Well, I didn't have that power.
Right.
I'm sure that NHRA would have backed me up because they're that great of an establishment. But this guy looked in my eyes, and I never flinched, and he goes, "All right, let's move it up." This part of the story is the reason I'm opening this cabinet and showing these pictures. This is a picture of my father's 40 back in the day when he met my mom. He worked at a gas station. She pulled in to get gas, and they chatted for over 2 hours. Eventually started dating. Mom was driving this car here. Now, I want you to pay attention to these wheels. Now, there's Mom in front of Dad's car. She has to be 18 or 19 years old at that time.
Okay.
Now, I showed you these pictures because I want to show you something over here. Back in the day when my mom and Dad were dating, apparently Mom needed some new tires, so Dad sold her a set of tires, and they put them on the rims. Well, eventually, they sold the car to a friend of my Dad's, and he took the wheels off, put them away, and put mags on it, and he had it for a decade or so. Eventually sold the car. Well, the car was long gone. Decades later, this man passed away. My father was still friends with him. His wife said, "Jim, why don't you come on over and take whatever you want?" He goes, "Well, what I'll do is I'll come over and we will get prices for you and get you some good money." She goes, "Well, but I want you to have anything that you see that you want." When he got there, he found these wheels. These were the wheels that were on Mom's car when she was dating Dad, long before we were born. And Dad sold her this set of tires. Okay, the reason I brought you to this wall is there's several things. One, there's a picture of Jay and I looking over that car before, he'd already bought it. But we were discussing things, and so that picture would turn out to be so cool I had to have it blown up and put on the wall. Now, you'll notice this here was a write-up of my father and a lot of his accomplishments. And so I had that blown up and put up on the wall. These are individual pictures of cars that I've had, a 1962 Buick convertible. The Roadster I had for a couple of years. My 68 Mustang. This guy here was like a brother to me as well. And he brought his car here and we took a lot of great pictures. And then after that picture, we went off to a car show and we got this great picture of all the fenders together. Here, this picture here is of a 1929 Ford Model A Roadster. In 1969, Dad went to Bonneville, and my brother and I got to be his crew members. And we set a world record in a flathead motor in a Roadster. Now, when we set the world record, I then went back to Windover, Utah, the little town. I shimmied up a Texaco sign, which they had the two poles, and it said Texaco. And I untied a banner on this side, and then shimmied up the other side and untied it, and let it float down to a guy who held it for me. When I got down, I've had it since then, 1969, and it says STP, welcome race fans. And I've had that ever since. This motor you're seeing me standing in front of, this is 312. It was a 57 T-Bird motor, and it's going to be going in this Fairlane that you see behind me here. Now, I've had a couple other 58s before. One was this 4-door 6-cylinder, and I sold that because I was going to eventually get me a 2-door, and I wanted a V8. Okay. I also had a Fairlane 500 with a police interceptor, and I sold that, and that's gone to, I think it was Switzerland. Anyway, so eventually I had a 55 Ford and a gentleman in town that had a 5-way bypass, a heart attack, a hot rodder that could no longer work on motors. So he showed up and he said he wanted to trade my 55 4-door for his 58 2-door. So we now have the 2-door that I wanted. This is in real good shape. We've got a lot of work to do to it, but I acquired that 57 T-Bird motor, which is a Y-block, and that should bolt right into this. So we're fixing up the transmission, and those parts are scattered up behind you there on the floor. So once we get all that put together and get this thing, we can get, I want to change the dash. But after we change the dash and get it running, then I got to do some body work. But I'm going to make this one my own. This is one that I will keep forever. I like the 58 styles. We got the ribs in the hood. You've got a scoop that a 57 does not have. You got dual headlights, and I'm going to get rid of this bar because that open mouth shark look I really like. So I like everything about the 58 except for the taillight section. Okay, so on a 57, okay, here on the 58, you see this pattern that drops down, and then they've got this part that sticks out forward to accommodate a second taillight so that you have 4 taillights. But on a 57, it just swoops down smoothly and has a beautiful little emblem right here. And there's no set of taillights here. You just have a round taillight here, and of course a different bumper. So on the 57, I like the tail end better. So when we do the body work, we're going to change the back end to a 57. This motor here I acquired because after having the Roadster, whoever dialed that in, that thing ran beautifully. I would cruise all the way up to Reading at 80 to 100 miles an hour, and it just glided. At 80 miles an hour, it was only gliding at 2,000 RPM. So I put out the word that I didn't care for the flathead that's in my little 37 pickup out here, and I'm getting a lot of flack because everybody wants me to keep it original, but you know what? They want a flathead in theirs, fine. They want to put $8,000 into a motor, fine. I wanted something that I can have as a little workshop truck that I can always just get in it and drive to New York and back if I want to. So I acquired this little small block Chevy. I've got a transmission down here that I'm going to be putting, also this rear axle will also be going in the 37 pickup. So it'll have disc brakes, some modern stuff that'll make it a more safer vehicle, but also the ability to cruise at 2,000 to 2,500 RPM. Here, of course, my little 37 pickup. It's obviously got a lot of patina. It's what they call a survivor. A guy fixed it up in the late 50s, early 60s, the way he wanted it. He changed stuff like on this back spare tire. A truck did not have a cover. Cars did. Well, he eventually put a cover on it. He filled in the cowl vent, and I'm thinking possibly I might unfill that and get it working again. And he had changed the hood ornament so there was none at all. So I put this one on here to give it a little bit of a personal look. He did juice brakes from the 1944. He put in a 1944 bench seat, which is a lot more comfortable. And he changed the gauges to a Stewart Warner instrument cluster. And he's got a 1940 Ford steering column. Now I have been adding my personal touches. When I got this truck, there was no inside at all, just the bench seat. So I found these hard plastic which has a fiber look, and I built the door panels, the kick panels. I put in a carpeting, and I built the headliner that you'll see up underneath there, which took me a lot of calculations, but I got the whole headliner all put in. The best part is back here around the window. This little project over here is my little 56 Dodge. I bought this from the same guy that I bought the 57 Imperial that I sold to Jay Leno. This car here was in great shape, but he had a snowstorm that crushed in the roof and caved in on the top, did a lot of damage on the top. So I've got some body work that I need to do this, but this will be my nostalgia car. I'm going to keep this one always original. I've got some body work to do to it, get the paint job done exactly the same, and then I've got a little bit of interior work to do, but it's running real good. I've got electronic ignition in it, so I don't have to set the points, but this thing runs real good. I mentioned to you that when I was younger, my father had set me up with NHRA and been a part of all that, and so I got to meet a lot of famous people. And at that young age, I didn't ask for autographs. So later, when I'd run into these people again, I would then acquire an autograph. You know, but I've met Shirley Muldowney, Don Perdome, Tom McEwen, the Daddy Don Garlitz, just a lot of your big names. I've also met Al Unser, Bobby Unser, Mario Andretti. I've got a lot of signatures that I've acquired. Also, of course, you know, Paul Lamont from American Graffiti. We've got
Cut.
Bo Hopkins.
We all need glasses sometimes, Wade.
Also, Bo Hopkins, I met him. But there's also some famous racers. Now, I've got an autograph of Bill Vukovich. Now, Bill Vukovich, he didn't sign a lot of autographs. So I acquired this one from Bill Vukovich Jr.'s wife. She sent that to me.
Okay.
Bill Vukovich was killed in a racing accident in Indianapolis in 1955. But there was a movie that I was in with my 68 Mustang that has never been released yet, and I've got all the signatures from all the people that were there in that one. But there's a lot of famous stuff. This one was all just about Dad. You know, AJ Foyt is another guy I've met. Just, you know, lots of different history in here.
So I definitely hope you guys enjoyed today. Wade really does have a lot of cool stuff in his garage. Just a lot of memories, a lot of stories that go along with it. I do plan to go back and do some follow-up on the project cars he's got going on. He's also supposed to be getting a 40 Ford here pretty soon from our friend Fred, and gonna start working on that, so he's gonna have another project going. So there's a lot going on, so we'll definitely have to visit him in a couple of months and see how things are going, see what's new in the garage, that type of thing. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely give me a thumbs up. It is greatly appreciated. As always, share the channel with other like-minded people. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate that, and you can tap the bell icon to get notified whenever a video is uploaded. I try to upload about twice a week. Yeah, I had a good time. Hope you did too. So that being said, God bless, take care, have an absolutely amazing day.